Hello class, welcome to question 22. Now, this question deals with normalization. Okay, now we started this in class and this is just a follow-up to what we have been doing. Okay, now the question is basically we need to normalize this flat file structure into three related tables, indicating all relationships and all primary and foreign keys. Now, a flat file structure in databases just basically means that we have everything in one table. So this is the database and it has all of these fields at the top. Now in a flat file structure, this is all that you will get. Okay, now we need to normalize this structure and basically break it up into three tables. Now the way that we can do this, alright, we first need to look at each of these fields that are in this table. Okay, then the next thing that we need to do is we need to find the common or the commonality between each of the fields. So already just by looking at this table, I can see that item and item number probably would make a good table. Probably an items table, which will have just information on each of these things that are in there. Also, if we move along to the next three, we have the borrower's name, his surname, and the faculty. So this is all information about the actual person who is borrowing the item. So that could be another table. It could be, you know, a borrower's table. And then finally we have the dates borrowed and returned. So those two pieces of information it would be logical to group them. Okay, so we could make another table which could be a booking table, and there we have our actual three tables for our database. Now let's have a look at it in Microsoft Word. So we've mentioned that our three tables could be an items table, a borrower's table, and finally a booking table. Now the things that you would need to put in the items table is, firstly, we would need to have an item ID. This is a unique identifier for each and every item that is in that table. So item ID or item number, whichever one you wanted to put down. And what else do we have? We have the actual item, and that could just be our table for the items table. Okay, so that's all we need. Now the next table is the borrower's table. So we could have a borrower's ID. Okay, the borrower's ID would determine a unique identifier for each borrower. Okay, so we could have borrower's first name, borrower's last name, and finally we could put borrower's faculty. Okay, now finally the booking table. Now the items table and the borrower's table contain good information. Okay, now the booking table would probably be the table that will join both of these tables together. So the things that we would need to put in there, okay, for each item that is taken, we would need to find out the item ID, which will correspond with the actual item. We will also need to find out the person who is taking that item, so we would need the borrower's ID. So at a minimum, we start item ID, borrower's ID, then we can put our two fields here, date borrowed and date returned. So I've just moved the tables around because I know that our booking table is going to group each of the other tables, or we are going to relate to the middle table. Now with the booking table, there should be a booking ID field, so that if people need to track back and find, you know, a unique identifier for each of, you know, the items that were borrowed or the date that was returned, this unique field will identify that. Now, in each table, we need to have primary keys, and in some tables we need to have foreign keys. Okay, so I can tell you that the item ID, and we'll just change this to red, would be a primary key. Same with the booking ID. This will be primary key, and borrower's ID will also be a primary key. Now, why are they primary keys? They are primary keys because they are unique identifiers for each record in that table. Okay, now we need to relate the different fields from the different tables. So the way that we can do this is we can relate from item ID in the item table to the item ID in the booking table, and the same goes on the other side, from the borrower's table to the booking table. So what it would look like is something like this. So from the borrower's ID to from the borrower's ID to from the borrower's ID to the borrower's ID. Now, in these two tables, okay, they are not primary keys. Okay, they are what we call foreign keys. So we need to make these foreign keys, and this will also be foreign key. Okay, now the reason why they're foreign keys is because in one table they are the primary key, but in our bookings table they are considered the foreign key. Okay, now the last thing in the whole normalization process is determining the relationships between the different tables. Now, there are many different types of relationships, from one-to-one, one-to-many, many-to-many, and so on. Now, how do we understand what the relationship is between each table? Well, for every one item, okay, in the booking table, we can have many people borrow that same one item. So we can already assume that this relationship would be one to many. And in the borrower's table, it is the same concept. Okay, for every one person that exists, they can make multiple numbers of bookings. So there will always only be one person that could make multiple bookings. So the relationships on either side would be one to many. So we can see that we specify from the items table, we have a one to many. The many symbol is this symbol here. And so I will do the same thing for the other side. We have one borrower, and we have the foreign key here, which is the borrower's ID, which is more than one borrower can make a booking at any one time. And that is basically the answer for that question. We have taken a flat file table, okay, all this information, all these fields were in one file, and we have turned it now into a related database. Okay, so if we were going to build this, this is how our tables would all look and how the relationships would actually look. So thank you for watching. I hope you can do your own tutorials.